Hey, what is going on, Los Angeles? It's J. T. And today is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025, in the city of Los Angeles, where we just got word that 2,000 of California's National Guardsmen will be headed back to their stations in the immediate future and for an indefinite amount of time. They are basically being called back to base. Now, this also comes on the heels of news recently about an injunction against ICE and its conduct, for lack of a better word, essentially barring the agency from its racial profiling to conduct raids. The amount of evidence is probably long enough to go around the world twice and then back in terms of just how much has been captured about the agency's completely racist tactics against Latinos or Latinx communities or Mexican American communities or indigenous peoples across Southern California specifically, but also throughout the state, including up through Ventura County and up through Central California just as well, where they have conducted operations that have not only terrorized and kidnapped hundreds of workers from the state, but where their lunacy actually led to the death of at least one farm worker who was 57 years old as he attempted to flee these marauding troops and masked men because, of course, he knew exactly just what being captured by their forces would lead to, which is a life of enslavement, a life completely severed from your family members and loved ones, and more. So this is an interesting turn or an interesting new twist to the saga, that is for certain. But I will say that although this mission of the Trump administration's, in particular, this mission of Stephen Miller's, was in fact successful in terrorizing our communities quite extensively since about June 8th, when they were first deployed to show force here. The fact of the matter is that history will not look kindly upon this act against the state of California and the city of Los Angeles especially. I am certain that history will judge this as a cowardly act by Donald Trump, who is now snickering away and running away from what he promised his own base with respect to his best friend, Jeffrey Epstein, and the list of visitors to Epstein Island that he promised to make public while he was on the campaign trail, just like it happened with the war in Ukraine, which the president on the campaign trail, or as he was running for the office, said that he'd end in just a few days' time, on day one in office, to quote him specifically, right? Only for that to turn into another warmongering threat from Donald Trump and his office to the Kremlin, as they realize 6 months after being elected that they've been getting played by Vladimir Putin and Moscow. So the fact of the matter is also that in the 21st century, the United States has sent troops to at least 2 different nations to quell unrest there. And in both instances, all it led to was an international embarrassment for the United States and trillions of dollars lost. In Los Angeles, while these troops were successful once again in protecting ICE operations, in sharing tactical information with ICE agents and in executing harm against our communities with ICE, it will still go down as a total and complete failure on not only Gavin Newsom for his inability to successfully resist this from day one, but on the part of the US as a civilized country, right? Because now, every time that we have something to say about a dictator out there somewhere and their repression of their people, I think of, I don't know, the rhetoric against Iran, for example. Now, Iran has nothing but ammo in the uh, myriad of video evidence showing these troops deployed against US citizens themselves. And for those of you who say, or want to say, or are tempted to say that these troops went only after illegals, or that these troops were only there to protect ICE from those raging lunatic rioters, just look up the story of the US Army veteran who was detained recently by ICE, and dozens, if not hundreds more cases where US citizens were rounded up by ICE altogether because the only tactic they have and the only law that they have is the savage law or the barbaric law of racial profiling, right? As though we were back in 1492 and the Spanish are looting any and every indigenous village they can find out there. Right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And that is why so many people are rightfully frustrated by just what this has exposed, not only about the US state, but also about the state of California and just who calls the shots here at the end of the day. Now, with this said, I am certainly looking forward to learning of just what is next in terms of that injunction I mentioned earlier, which was a bar on ICE conducting these raids in the manner of racial profiling, or through the manner or method of racial profiling, for about 30 days. I do know that the administration appealed the decision, but I'm confident that they'll lose the appeal because there's just overwhelming evidence of the claimants' allegations about these raids. And so the question is, do we need another injunction after that? And another injunction after that? And are we just going to keep going on and on, since we can't trust in the Supreme Court anymore either? It's a great question, but at the end of the day, it's also just what the United States looks like under an authoritarian regime and in the decline of its arc. At the end of the day, when an empire is stretched too thin, as the US is, it begins attacking from within, and it has begun as an attack on so-called migrants to this country. But that is about as backwards as reducing healthcare benefits by the unfathomable number of 841 billion, basically $1 trillion over just the next 4 years, right? I mean, how could you do that when Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are making billions of dollars that they won't even live long enough to see? How could you do that to the people who have worked for the United States and paid taxes their whole lives and done their best to abide by the laws and to honor their role, their part for this country? How could you do it as the needs due to climate change become greater and greater by the day, as evidenced by the unimaginable toll now faced by the families of Kerrville County, who join the increasingly growing list of people and families or homes absolutely demolished by climate catastrophe in the 21st century. This is what we're looking at least from this side of the world in Los Angeles. But now that you know, you got to go and let the city know, because it's J. T.